Welcome everybody to the Game Off Podcast. This week we got some exciting news about the podcast itself. We also have our reactions to the Game Awards, and then finally we got our Showcase of the Week with Sayonara Wild Hearts and Life is Strange 3, 2, shite. I'm your co-host Brent, aka Arcadia, along with
Solitalker, me, Andrew, the other way around, Andrew, aka Solitalker, whichever order you want.
they're all good. All right,
Yeah.
and this is Game Off number 22. Happy 2020, everyone. By the time this is out, it'll be 2020.
Yeah.
It's actually the day before New Year's for us recording right now. So we got plans to continue doing 2019 games for a little bit because we missed quite a few good ones. So we're gonna go into January and we're gonna keep recording, playing 2019 games. So if you're confused as to why we're releasing new episodes with slightly older games, that's why. And then we'll do our Tournament of Champions probably in like February, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, there's like 2 games left that are good. But, and I didn't play either of them. But we're going to talk about games anyways, and I think February is probably the safe bet. February is when it would come out.
Yeah, it's since we started the podcast late last year, and also there's not really any games slated for early 2020 that are
March is going to be a bear, though.
Yeah, yeah, we need to get done with 2019 well before March.
Yeah.
Let it be known. So, yeah, so that's what to expect on the podcast front. Let's move straight into the reactions for the Game Awards. That aired about a week or so ago. We both watched it and live tweeted it.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that experience.
Yeah, that was a good time. There's a lot. It's like with E3. There's always a lot of snark to be had on Twitter with it, and it's a lot of fun. Just as a reminder of what games are in the world. Yeah.
I found myself thinking up really snarky things to say, and then like adding the developers, and then being like, oh, these are real people. I gotta keep that shit in mind.
Thankfully, Jeff Keighley is a robot from space, so I didn't feel bad with anything that may have been related to him or his decisions.
Yeah, I feel like he doesn't read the internet whatsoever, which is fine.
No, I get that feeling from the way the Games Awards were presented, and that he didn't ever go back and see what people thought of it.
He is a consummate professional, though. I will grant him that.
Absolutely.
He's unwavering, like the tides.
This year's Game Awards felt much more like an actual awards show, in that there was a lot of pomp and a lot of musical performances for no reason, and just a lot of stuff that wasn't actually about games.
Yeah.
Like, it was about games, but it was about like games that don't exist yet, and not like the games that we're here to talk about.
Yeah. It did feel like some weird hybrid between like E3 programming and like the Oscars.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
There was a lot of like weird repetitive commercials for some reason. Like you'd see the same commercial several times even though you were watching the same program. It's like sort of like watching the Super Bowl.
And it's also just very weird because they kind of fast forwarded through a lot of the awards. Yeah, it's like, here's this and this and this. This guy won this thing. This guy won. No one's listening to this. Let's get to the next trailer.
Yeah, I still really don't feel. I don't know how I feel about them having this many awards if they're just going to be footnotes during the show. Because then there's like no point to there being a show other than to have game trailers for games that aren't out and, you know, musical performances that no one cares about.
No, Green Day is still totally relevant because they got that Green Day add-on for Band Hero, whatever it was they were advertising.
I think it was Beat Saber, but I had to walk away because the performance was so bad.
No, I'm pretty sure it was Band Hero.
Band Hero 3.
I'm pretty sure that's
the
what it
Green
was.
Day inning.
Yeah, it's just Green Day playing it now.
it's just a video of them playing Band Hero, but only their 3 songs.
Oh, that is
$59.99.
That is some serious shade at Green Day right there. I can't name more than 3 of their songs, but I'm sure people out there are going to claim they had more.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they just had Welcome to Paradise and Wake Me Up When September Ends. I'm pretty sure that's it.
Well, you know what? It's funny because now between the two of us, we know 4 songs because neither of
Oh.
those were the 2 songs I was thinking.
Oh my
of.
god.
So
Maybe they were right, Andy.
maybe they do deserve their own Guitar Hero X pack.
Yeah. So awards,
I looked at our list and we didn't do well in predictions.
No.
No.
Who did better? Not that I'm counting.
No, I actually didn't do that much in figuring out who did better. That would have been exciting.
How convenient.
Yeah, so the first one, Game of the Year, you thought Control, and I thought Sekiro, and it was Sekiro.
Oh, damn it.
Yeah.
So,
Thoughts on that? Any final thoughts on Sekiro being the winner?
I was happy with that award. I personally don't think that it was, but that's fine. The game. It's not Brent's Game Awards. It's the Game Awards.
Yet. It's not Brent's Game Awards yet.
Yeah. Just you fucking wait. Yeah. No. Sekiro is a just stellar game. It overperformed in every category that I thought it would flop on its face. I'm sure I talked about it ad nauseum in the episode, but I was constantly shocked by how unique and innovative the game was, more than anything. And it didn't feel like a Dark Souls game 90% of the time. Obviously, it had like the same engine, some of the same bones, some of the same spirit, but honestly, when you were playing it, you were playing Sekiro, and I wouldn't dare even utter it in the same breath as Dark Souls, other than to note that it was made by the same people as Dark Souls, and clearly they're geniuses, so, yeah.
Well, I picked that one, so I don't need to give any follow-up, because clearly I already understood what was going on there, so it's fine.
So smart, Andy. I know.
Best game direction went to Death Stranding, which we both predicted, and I think we both predicted it fairly cynically.
Yeah, because of course, because Kojima's the only person that anyone knows who produced any of these games.
Right, so his is the other one whose name is in, it's Kojima Productions.
Yeah.
No one knows the names of people at Remedy, or I guess FromSoft maybe, but Mobius Digital? Nah.
Yeah,
no.
Good luck. Yeah, that was the thing too, because he also got that stupid Twitter Guinness Award for having the most followers by a game director. What sort of nonsense award is that? And also, of course he would have a ceremony to do that.
Yeah, he's one of the few auteur game directors we have out there that aren't auteurs that people hate. I wouldn't think that Peter Molyneux or David Cage have huge Twitter followings.
Man,
they're out there, but no one's looking at man, I want to know what Suda51's saying next. He can not say anything for a while. It's fine.
Yeah, we'll check in with him in June. Yeah, can you imagine if they did Comedy Central roasts for game directors, but it was Peter Molyneux?
I don't think he could handle it. I don't think.
I'd see him crying in 5 minutes.
I've heard people talking. Laura Kate Dale did an interview with him, and she described his wretched, pained talking about games that he'd released in the past, and the way he talked to them, and how he was definitely going to be different this time. Almost like you're listening to someone recovering from an addiction. And I'm sure it's rough being Peter Molyneux, but at the same time,
yeah.
Best ongoing game. Best ongoing game was Fortnite. Neither of us predicted that. We both said it was Rainbow Six Siege.
Yeah, a nonsense category. Some of these games are new games.
How can best ongoing game be Fortnite if best multiplayer game wasn't Fortnite and best community support wasn't Fortnite?
Was the best multiplayer game a non-ongoing game?
That's what I'm trying to scroll down to get. No, it was Apex Legends.
So it lost in the genre that it was, but
it wasn't even nominated. Wasn't even nominated for best multiplayer game.
I don't understand.
Nor do I. And it wasn't. It was nominated for community support. But Destiny 2 was nominated. Well, it won community support, but didn't win ongoing game. It wasn't even nominated for best multiplayer.
Bungie does have like a good community. Like Bungie.net has always been a thing, so I can kind of see that category going to them. But also, if you told me the name of that category, I would probably think of Bungie before anyone.
Okay, that's fair. But what about best ongoing game being Fortnite though? Like,
I don't understand. I mean, clearly they voted Apex as a better game, but it's not ongoing enough.
no,
Is that what we're saying in this category?
they should have
Because it
gone.
only
They
came
should
out
have gone
in
on more.
February.
Should have gone
yeah.
on more.
Yeah, why have you considered being an older game that has continued ongoing? Well, hopefully they fix that in the future with going on.
Because I'm sure as hell Destiny 2 is not going to.
No. Do you see that they walked back what they said about how Destiny 2 was going to be the platform for them for the ongoing or for the foreseeable future?
Is
and
it
then
is it because no one's playing Destiny 2?
yeah, now they're like, oh yeah, Destiny 3 is definitely happening. Probably relatively soon. And everyone's like, what the fuck? What?
God. You know what? We're like a week away from Anthem 2 announcements.
It's coming today. Day and date drop.
It's based on the Radical Heights engine.
Oh my god.
Is that the one I'm thinking of? Radical Heights?
Yeah, yeah. Fucking Cliffy Bees, shoehorned fucking
Pre-alpha battle royale game.
Yeah.
That's what that's what it's gonna be. It's gonna be that style of like, look, we've got a game. It's Anthem 2. It is technically more than a tech demo, but not by much.
I think there's nothing more analogous of the internet than Radical Heights is just burst onto the scene and then just no one talked about it ever again. And then it just went away because it essentially got canceled. But yeah, it comes out and it was the most divisive game I think I'd ever seen. Like, that no one had heard about, but everyone was mad about it for some reason. And then inevitably everyone else is defending it. And then 3 days later, no one was talking about it.
It's someday in the future when video game history studies is a class, there's going to be like a week on the rise and fall of Boss Key. Because it's a fascinating thing to do a post-mortem on. And I hope someone does a good in-depth video on that at some point, because they were just all
right, we keep getting off topic, mostly me.
Best narrative went to Disco Elysium. Neither of us predicted that. I said it would be Death Stranding, and you said Control. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I haven't played Disco Elysium. I'm really happy that it went to an indie game, but also Control came out this year, so god damn it.
And we know that Control is basically your nod for everything.
Yeah, ideally.
Yep.
best JRPG, Control.
Yeah, I haven't played Disco Elysium yet either, but it's supposed to be fantastic. It definitely sounds like the kind of game I want to win. So I'm pleased with that.
Yeah, me too.
Art direction went to Control, which neither of us predicted. I said Link's Awakening. You said Gris or Gree, whichever one it is. I'm still not sure.
I think it's Griced.
Oh, Griced? Okay. So, yeah, I was surprised to see it go to Control.
Yeah, I was surprised too, because, I mean, I loved the design and the direction of the game, but I never would have thought people would sort of get on board with that, because it wasn't obviously apparent. Because, like, a lot of people this is open to voting to a lot of people, so you have to assume that people see, like, the Gree cover, and they're like, oh yeah, that's the art game this year.
Right. It didn't have an art direction that would be obviously unique and intriguing from the trailer and footage you may have seen in like promotional stuff.
Yeah. The in-game design is genius and beautiful, but like the key art I don't think does it justice. So I guess more people played it than what everyone's been saying.
Yeah. The score music, we both predicted Death Stranding, and it went to Death Stranding. But I have a bone to pick with this, and I feel like the Game Awards should set this up differently, because I don't think that score and soundtrack made up of things that already existed are the same thing. I think in the same way that, like, for the Oscars, you've got best original screenplay and best adapted screenplay, because those are
Yeah.
two very clearly different things. There's a lot of skill that goes into assembling a soundtrack of existing music. You can think about, like, classic movie soundtracks that were made up of something like Empire Records that had a great soundtrack of already existing music,
Yeah, yeah.
or someone like
Cats.
or Cats, or Hans Zimmer making it. Like, so I feel like score/music, like, there are two games in there that are music games with their own original soundtrack. How can you say that the music for Death Stranding was better suited to the game than two games whose music was written for the game and whose entire design is based around that said music? It doesn't make sense to me.
I'm sure you'll go over this more later with Sayonara Wild Hearts, especially with that game, because like that's not even built on the bones of another game.
Yeah, it shocks me, and I'm sure Death Stranding has a great soundtrack, and I can't comment as to whether or not it fits with the game and the theme, but, like, you have two games in there, and well, you have four games in there whose soundtracks were written for the game itself.
Yeah.
And two of which the gameplay is also written around that soundtrack. Like, the soundtrack is baked into the experience. You could not play the games without the music. I guess if it's best one to listen to with headphones on when you're working as a Spotify playlist, maybe Death Stranding wins.
That's completely fair.
It confuses me. I can't speak to it because I haven't played Death Stranding, but it just seems like a very weird...
Yeah. Well, so we have, 6 categories for esports, but we only have 2 for audio?
Audio is not a big part of the game experience.
Yeah, I often like to play all of my games with the sound off. I feel like it adds nothing to games. No, I'm lying. I could go through the rest of my life never caring about esports again, but if there was no audio in games, I'd be pretty fucking upset.
Yeah.
I agree with you completely that there does need to be more nuance to these categories. Especially if we're just gonna breeze through the categories anyway on the award show. Like, why are we just like, all right, just two for audio? That's all they get.
And speaking of 2 for audio, next one is audio design, which went to Call of Duty Modern Warfare, in contrast with your thought for Gears 5 and mine for Resident Evil 2.
Yeah, I since then I've started playing Modern Warfare and definitely blows the walls out. If that's how we want to refer to audio design, because they did do a good job. They really did, but it's because there's so much happening all the time. It's sort of like the Michael Bay effect. Like, well, yeah, if like there's just 1,000 different effects going off constantly, like you're gonna need a good audio designer, and they probably do deserve an award because they've done a fantastic job. Did they do anything unique? Like, I've only done probably 5 or 6 missions. No. I think Control, honestly, did a better job of the actual, like, mixing portion of the audio. But I can still see. I can see it.
Okay. What about best performance? Mads Mikkelsen won. You thought Laura Bailey for Gears 5. I thought Ashley Birch for The Outer Worlds. I was disappointed to see Mads Mikkelsen win. Again, I can't speak to his performance, but it's whenever I see that wide of a gamut of type of person, like, and we talked about this before, I feel like it's kind of cheating to throw a seasoned actor in there as, like, a seasoned actor playing a character that looks exactly like him and is mirroring his facial movements.
Yeah.
Like, it's just you have Mads Mikkelsen as the actor in your game.
Yeah, and we did categorically eliminate 3 of these people because they were scanned in like that, so it didn't leave many options.
Very true. So I was a little disappointing for me, but
yeah,
I'm not hugely surprised.
I also don't know if I harped on this at all before when we were making the predictions, but I think this should also be 2 categories, just like every other award, because there were so many fantastic female actresses this year. There were so many fantastic male actors this year. It's a shame to just say, hey, there were 6 good performances in video games because it's video games and there's not that many great performances, right? It's like, no, like, let's take our time, give it its due. Again, I'd rather see 2 performance categories than 6 esports categories.
Yeah, that's very fair. Games for Impact. Grice won, and we both predicted Grice would win. So, yay us.
That made sense with the nominations.
Yep. Same for independent game. Disco Elysium won. We both predicted Disco Elysium would win.
Yep. Makes sense to the noms.
Mobile game, we did not predict Call of Duty Mobile, but it won.
I didn't play any of these games. Who cares about the stupid fucking category?
I would
not so hot take.
Yeah, these days, if I was taking this again, I'd give it to Sayonara Wild Hearts because I've actually played that now. Previously, I hadn't played any of those games. VR game, I think we both said Asgard's Wrath based on really nothing.
Well, Beat Saber came out last year, or the year 2018.
As did No Man's Sky several years ago.
Yeah, so I don't know what the fuck this category was.
It's just a general lie.
Yeah, I mean, most of the rest of these are like they make perfect sense too.
Yeah, we'll speed through these. Your DMC 5 won Best Action Game. That seems pretty cool.
Blessed.
Yep. Sekiro won Best Action Adventure, which it should because it was the game of the year. So it would have to. Best RPG went to Disco Elysium, which neither of us predicted. We both thought it would be Outer Worlds. Fighting game went to Smash Brothers Ultimate, which didn't come out this year. Family game went to Luigi's Mansion 3, which is disappointing. It's a great game, but Yoshi's Crafted World, I don't know, just was a greater game.
It's feel good by good feel.
Yeah, essentially. Fire Emblem won for Best Strategy. We both predicted that. It's really
fucking better.
It's really one of the few ways that Tecmo Koei is going to show up on an awards list is through the Fire Emblem series.
Oh man.
Yeah, I know.
Dynasty Warriors will be there someday.
Yeah.
Musu's coming.
I hope every year I get excited and every year I get sad. Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled, which
this makes me mad. Stop the shit now.
It only inserted microtransactions and loot box shit into their game after release so that they could avoid being categorized like that and having their box art ruined by contains microtransactions. I'm not making that as a factual statement. That's just a fun theory I read online somewhere.
Oh, good.
I'm not claiming it as fact.
Okay, that's good. I followed zero of the coverage, so I was about to be like, oh no.
We talked about multiplayer going to Apex Legends, even though I voted for Tetris 99. You said Borderlands 3. And Subway's Eat Fresh Indie Game of the Sandwich went to Disco Elysium, which you called, even though I think it should have gone to Slay the Spire, which didn't come out this year. But who fucking cares? That's just like a suggestion.
Oh, man, could we talk about Slay the Spire now?
Yeah, let's talk about Slay the Spire.
Oh my god, I have not stopped playing that game for fucking 2 weeks straight.
Slay the Spire is so fucking good.
Oh my god, I wish it came out this year because I could literally write a thesis on it at this point.
Everything about it is so well crafted and balanced.
Yeah, if you guys like any sort of card games, not even just roguelike card games, or like Magic, if you like fast-paced deck building and also combat, and also it just feels good constantly, feels like fucking cocaine in my veins. Play Slay the Spire, please, for the love of Christ.
Slay the Spire
love this game so
is
much.
one of the few card games I've played that actually does proper RPG emergent storytelling. Like, you get combos of artifacts and cards that feel like a good story you want to tell people.
Yeah.
Which never happens in... maybe it does in Hearthstone for Sados, but not for elite Major League gamers like you and me. It doesn't happen like that. Like, I've wanted to tell my wife about things that happen in Slay the Spire, and she has no concept of any of it. She doesn't play most games. But I'm like, I want to describe to her how this game works so she can understand the situation I was in, so I can tell her about this play that I made, because it's that cool. It's not. But I think it felt that cool.
It is that cool. I think it's cool, Andy.
Yeah.
I think you're cool.
Thank you.
But especially if you're playing Slay the Spire.
Man, I just gotta say, the number of times I have just gone full in on Snecko Eye and just let that ride the rest of the game and had
People
the
fucking
most
love
fun.
Snecko Eye online.
It's just like madness. It's just throwing any logic to the wind. Like, well, this is nonsense. Let's see what happens.
I'm confused all the time. God bless.
So yeah, shame they didn't win Eat Fresh indie game for the sandwich, but you know,
Yeah,
Disco
it also
Elysium.
didn't come out this year.
Yeah. And then community support we talked about. Now Michael Shroud, last name, won Best Content Creator of the Year. How do you feel about that?
I don't know who that is. I think he's on Mixer now. I think I heard news that he jumped ship because no one wants to be on Twitch anymore.
Now, you predicted David Greffig Martinez would win, and I said Salil.
Ewok?
Ewok.
Oh, she's the only female on the list.
Yeah. I got that because Salil, it was also the name of the girl from Punky Brewster. So I was able to determine that she was likely the only female on the list from that.
I don't know this reference.
Soleil Moonfry, I believe, was the name of the girl from Punky Brewster. Yeah, okay. So it's fine. No, I don't quite remember our logic, but we disqualified the entire category of Best Esports Game. Was it because none of the games came out this year?
I don't remember.
I think...
I think it's just mad that they weren't all Dota. Because I knew Dota wasn't going to win, so everything else has to get eliminated.
I think that's what it was. I think because none of those games came out this year, we DQ'd the entire category and just refused to answer it. But anyways, League of Legends won that one, so good for them.
Yeah. It won esport, esport host, best event, best team. And then the individual player went to a Fortnite player called Gearsdorf, which is kind of a cool, nice name.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool name.
Yeah, and then a coach that coaches Counter-Strike, who wasn't part of the best esports team on League of Legends. He actually was in Counter-Strike. His name was Onic. And I hope his career goes very well for him. But I don't care about it.
Now, do you have anything else to say on these esport things?
Too many categories. It's cool that they get recognition. No, it's not. Who cares? It's these individual people playing esports. Why do they need? These are like creator awards. Like these aren't content creators. Like I understand the content creator category more because that actually sort of. Well, I don't know. By that logic, like esports makes sense, but there's still too many goddamn categories.
It's just that's going to be the way until esports gets recognized at the ESPYs, and then it'll go away.
Yeah, and then we can all move on.
Yeah, until the international, gets broadcast and clips from it are shown during ESPYs award season, no one's gonna care, and they're gonna keep just dumping 500 esport categories into the game awards because that's the only place they can go.
Can you imagine all the harumphing there would be if there was esports at the ESPYs?
Oh, man, I can imagine 50, 60 people that I know over the age of 30 that would just be furious. Just you're in there, just jowls.
Irrationally.
I can't believe it. I can't believe it. These video games are showing up at people playing real sports.
People have to get up out their chairs and move around.
I mean, even in golf, they still have to walk the course.
Well,
Rabble, rabble, rabble.
yeah.
Yeah, I almost want it to happen just so I can experience one Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner where that's the topic of conversation.
And then you can politely remind them that these games make more money than those industries, and these individual players probably make more money than those individual players.
I just don't know why you'd sit and watch someone play a game. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Man, I've tried to watch golf, and let me tell you, I'd much rather watch a game I never understood or watched than a sport I've never watched or understood.
It's got a very relaxing quality to it. I used to watch it at my grandmother's house when everyone was hanging out there. Me and one of my uncles would just have golf on, and I'd usually fall asleep because it's very relaxing. It's not good for watching, but it is good for falling asleep to, like a white noise machine.
Wow. Yeah.
Or a familiar episode of Scrubs or something.
I'll remember that when I go to bed tonight.
Yeah,
on my bet of money from my esports winnings.
All right, you want to jump over to our Fireside chat?
Hey Andy, how you doing?
Oh, good.
That's good. What are your thoughts on The Simpsons and their 30th anniversary?
Oh, okay. So I know that it's very vogue to shit on The Simpsons post-season, whatever you want to put the cutoff as. 8, 12, 18. Whenever you stopped watching with your family, essentially. Whenever everyone in your family stopped getting together on Sunday nights and watching it is when it stopped being funny. Whatever that cutoff point is. I think it's very impressive that they've been on for 30 years and they've maintained any level of quality, because I watched 5 seasons of Riverdale and that jumped the shark 10 minutes into the episode. So like I will give The Simpsons full credit for that. And I think that people talking about The Simpsons and talking about how good it was in season 5, as if a show should not have in any way changed, for better or for worse, over a 25-year period. It's just like, it's like sitting here and talking about The Tonight Show and comparing it to the Carson years. Like, it's not a useful conversation to have. It's a completely different show now. Yes, It has the same characters, it has a lot of the same voice actors, but the writing staff is all completely changed. The culture in which it needs to exist is completely changed. The entire industry and structure around it has changed. So I am happy that The Simpsons continues to exist. I think it's neat that there are shows that I watched when I was 5 years old that there's a chance my son will watch when he's 5 years old. In the same way that I think it's neat that the Sesame Street has been on for so long. That I have aunts and uncles that grew up watching Sesame Street, and then I watched it at their house. Like that's a cool idea to me. I haven't watched The Simpsons in, live on TV in 10 years probably. I've occasionally caught an episode here or there, but I've not kept up with it. So I do not begrudge them their success, but it doesn't draw me in anymore. So good for them. Yeah. Congratulations. I hope clearly someone out there is still enjoying it because it's still profitable enough to keep on.
Obviously, yeah.
Fox continues to run it, but I can't speak to its actual quality anymore.
Yeah, I'm honestly trying to think the last time I watched an episode. I must have been in my early teens when I was watching it frequently. Since then, I probably caught 2 or 3 episodes total in like 15 years, which is crazy to think about. I remember when they had like their 300th episode, and I sort of pegged that as when the show started like getting less good, but even then it's not bad. Like the few episodes I've seen here and there, like it's still got a couple chuckles.
Yeah, it's no worse than half of the shows that the wife and I will try a couple episodes of and bail on. Yeah, it's not hitting the highs of something like The Good Place or some other really new and exciting comedy, but I don't think anyone expects it to. It's like animated 60 Minutes or something. Like it's just it's a comfort thing. It's there, it exists. You can watch it and be happy with it, but I'm not expecting it to break any new ground.
Right. Yeah. It's already done enough of that too.
So good for them.
They need the reprieve.
Yeah, if they need me to, if they're going to do one of those slideshows or those little clip shows of all the celebrities saying, "Congratulations, The Simpsons, on your 30th year," I'm happy to do one. Just get at me at Solitalker on Twitter, and I will happily do a good, excited shout out to all the hardworking people at The Simpsons.
I'm unavailable. Sorry.
Scheduling conflicts are just a bear. Hey, what do you think of pickles?
Pickles. Pickles. I don't know. They grossed me out when I was young because people that eat pickles are gross, but it's kind of delicious. Like pickled cucumbers specifically. I had pickled eggs for the first time in like 2 decades yesterday, and I was like, shit, these are pretty good too. Damn.
I've never had a pickled egg.
I used to watch my uncle just fucking fist these things out of a jar, and I was like, I'll never eat one of those for the rest of my life because I'm so disgusted. And then, that changed. But yeah, there's something about like the smell of vinegar on other food that's a bit of like strange. But I mean, objectively, like vinegar is one of the best substances on the earth. I will argue that. I like anytime I get anything that even loosely can handle vinegar on it, I will just drown it in vinegar. So, needless to say, pickled stuff is usually pretty good in my book.
Nice.
How about you?
I never liked them as a kid, and I've grown to like them a bit now as a thing on sandwiches and burgers. I still don't eat them on their own. They're just not for me. I don't actively dislike them. I just never seek them out. I know that there are like a lot of bars and joints that have like their own homemade pickles, and that'll be something that people will tell you about when you get there.
Well, communal pickles, that's a little bit different. I don't think a hand going into a pickle jar several times that's not my own. Probably not.
Well, I'm just even thinking of the ones where like they bring it to the table. Like, here's 4 or 5 of our own house batch pickles.
Yeah, but somebody had to fist a jar of pickles, right? Like several times.
I assume so.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just being a bit germophobic, but it just sounds. The whole again going back to my uncle fisting a jar of pickled eggs and eating like 6 of them back to back with the jar on his lap while watching TV or something. It sticks with me, man. It sticks with me.
All right.
Well, this one I'm pretty sure was meant for today's episode, even though it says episode 23. So maybe we'll save whatever second one you had for next week. But This is best of 2019 period memory, which I'm pretty sure she meant best 2019 memory.
Okay.
But if you have a memory that you would like to share.
My doctor says I'm not allowed to keep memories anymore because their scales give me hives. So I haven't had any since 2017. Thank you.
It's unfortunate when you're allergic to such good things.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me. That's just reopening that old wound. As far as my best 2019 memory, are we talking in gaming or just in general?
It's unclear, just like the sentence itself.
Okay.
Let's go with gaming.
And gaming.
We'll bring this back into gaming podcast.
My favorite 2019 memory is probably just the general experience of playing Superland. There was just so much joy and excitement and discovery in that game that I keep thinking back to. And it's one of those games I'm angry that I can't replay with a fresh mind.
Yeah.
That I can't go back and re-experience that again. But I think about it a lot, and I talk to people about that and similar games like similar narrative explorative games like that have become popular in the indie scene over the last 5-10 years. Things like Beginner's Guide and Stanley Parable and Pony Island and The Hex. Stuff that has a more. It has moments of reveal that only really work once.
Yeah.
And for me, that this year that was Superland, and that's just a very warm, happy memory for me. How about you?
So rarely in this life you get the opportunity to get really, truly giddy about getting home and playing a game, sort of like you did when you were, 10, 12, 20, 28, whatever. This year I felt that while playing Fire Emblem, and there's a reason that that's number 1 on our list still. I hadn't felt that way in quite a long time, and where I was just like obsessively thinking about it while at work, and then just like I can't wait to go home and play. And then I was like, oh my god, it's on Switch, I could take it with me to work, and then I would never find time to play it at work, so it was just literally sitting there, just causing me
good save.
Physical pain.
Never have time to play it at work. Yep.
Never have time, so busy. But it's so rare do you get these moments in life where you're just like so like over the moon about a game. Like I wouldn't say that it's a perfect game, but I wanted to play it non-stop. I was obsessed with it, and I hadn't felt that way in so long for a video game. Like maybe even like I could only compare it to like World of Warcraft, and like that definitely went on for a lot longer period of time. But that was like the same feeling that I had while playing Fire Emblem, even though I only played it for like 3 weeks, which is a healthy amount of time to play a game, and not 8+ years. Oh god. All right. Should we move on to the showcase?
Yeah, let's.
All right. What do we got? We got Sayonara Wild Hearts and Life is Strange Season 2, not 3, like I said earlier.
No, we can't. We're still on NDA for Season 3. Can't talk about that yet.
Yeah, it's a good one. There's a lot of sharks, but you didn't hear that here. Why don't we talk about Sayonara Wild Hearts first?
Oh, man, I've been looking forward to talking about Sayonara Wild Hearts for a while. Oh, man, it's
Excellent.
so good. The Sayonara Wild Hearts is kind of a music game-ish kind of thing.
Ish?
Well, it's... You are a young lady who is in a world of bright neon and rockin'... Well, rockin's the wrong word. Really cool something wave music. I'm not good at music genres. It's some kind of wave.
You sound these last few sentences have made you sound like a 400-year-old man. It's a nice young lady who's really rocking and hip with it.
People are going to take that little thing out there and then be like, hey, check out the Game Off podcast with Brent and the dumbest man in the world. The most inarticulate elderly man that he could find on the side of the road. Brent takes games and forces an old man to play them and then describe them at gunpoint.
Not the first time.
So you're a young lady. You are flying right on the back of a motorcycle, driving through this neon-colored alternate world, fighting these different gangs of other girls. And you fight them by just kind of navigating on a path, almost like a runner game, that's punctuated with little button presses. Do you remember... We've talked about this game before. Do you remember the classic Elijah Dushku vehicle, Wet?
Of course I remember Wet.
Of course, we talk about Wet all the time. It's one of the greatest tragedies in gaming.
What? She slid around on her knees and popped people on the head. It was great.
Yeah, no, that Wet didn't get well received, and that Wet 2 will never happen. That's the tragedy.
Yes, thank you.
So
Glad we're on the same page.
Do you remember the levels, like the car chase levels?
No, actually. I don't know if I got that far.
Yeah, so that may not have been in the demo. You may have actually had to have the full game to get that far in it.
Wait, you paid money for Wet?
Oh yeah, I think I still have
exposed.
I still have my copy of Wet somewhere around here. I bought that new. I bought that when it came out.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It's just me.
So many revelations today on Game Off 22.
But so you are, for example, you may be in a city, riding in the back of a motorcycle, chasing after one of these gangs of girls that are themed, as wolves or as cool girls with katanas. It's all really neat stuff. And the gameplay is you basically navigating like a runner, picking up these little diamonds and heart power-ups that go with the music. And occasionally you'll have essentially QuickTime event button presses.
Mm-hmm.
Describing it that way, it sounds kind of like a boring mobile game, but it's all in presentation. Everything.
It is on mobile, we should note.
It is on mobile. I've been playing it on Switch, which has been great. I love it on Switch. It's a great spot for getting on a big... I can't imagine playing this and never experiencing it on a larger screen, because it is so gorgeous visually, with the bright pinks and blues and just neat, dark, like neon at night aesthetic of it, without feeling like it's, those like Neon Drive type games.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like it's trying to be a vaporwave, chillwave game, but it definitely has the same artistic notes. And you just barrel down on these girls. You have fights with them and interact with... Yeah, I know, I'm not phrasing any of this correctly. your fights, interactions with them are done through QuickTime events or through navigating and collecting these power-ups and chasing after them. Occasionally you shoot stuff at them, which is just kind of an aiming thing. But it's all just such slick presentation and with an absolutely amazing soundtrack. Absolutely amazing soundtrack. The best soundtrack of the year.
Ooh.
So I've been listening to it outside as I've got a Spotify playlist of the soundtrack, which is just the soundtrack, so you don't need to really create its own playlist. You could just go to the soundtrack, it's fine. But it's hard to do on the TV, so I made a playlist.
For the youths, explain what a playlist is.
Okay, so like if you had a bunch of 45s and you wanted to listen to them in a certain order, you might give like whoever you pay to manage your record collection a list of what order to play them in. And you might write all that down and say like, hey Jerry, this is my playlist for when I'm in the mood for loving, so keep that in mind. And if I tap the side of my nose twice, put that on, but if I pull my ear, bail, because it's not going well.
I'm visibly upset right
Yeah,
now. Please continue describing the game.
That's basically it. It's difficult to describe without seeing it, which is not great for an audio format, because the way I'm describing it sounds like a crappy mobile game. The camera angles, the production of it change frequently. So you may be in a first-person view, and then it switches to an over-the-camera or over-the-shoulder shot, and then it rotates to be so the camera is in front, looking down on you, so you can dodge oncoming bullets. Then it kind of goes to an overhead shot for a more cinematic. Like it's very visually striking.
Yeah,
and the way the visuals and the beats of the visuals match up with the music makes the whole thing feel like a phenomenally produced movie chase sequence.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it really shines. Even though everything is extremely scripted, and all you're really doing is moving left and right and pressing a button in time with some of the on-screen prompts, you feel like you're doing really cool shit.
Yeah. I mean, it's a game that's presented so well that being along for the ride isn't a bad thing. Yes,
and the stages are all very quick. The songs are all 4 minutes or less. Most of them are less. So you're not. It's not like Guitar Hero where sometimes you'd feel like you're in just kind of this long slog of a song. Like, it goes very quick.
Yeah,
and I'm very bad at it, but I still had a blast playing it and replaying levels over and over again just to try and get my rank up.
Interesting. Yeah, so the levels are all like pretty different in their presentation. It's not all just like, so I played this at PAX East, and I'm pretty sure it was just like you chasing one person.
Mm-hmm.
Is that sort of the formula for most of the missions, or what?
No,
what can you expect?
they go all over the place. There are missions where you're driving through a forest, on rooftops, in a city. There are missions that are kind of more, I want to say conceptual, or but like where you're flying through kind of like a Tron-like subspace. Like the settings are broken into 4 or 5 missions per, or 3 or 4 missions per setting, as you're facing off against each gang of girls. Okay. And so they're all this gang of girls that's in the desert, this and kind of like a Death Valley flat desert driving. There's a gang of girls in the city, gang of girls on rooftops, and so you play through a couple, and each one kind of has its own thing that it plays with, and idea that it plays with as far as how the levels interact. There's one of the later groups that you're fighting is 2 twins, and they keep swapping between one of the levels has them like to the beat snapping their fingers to flip between 2 different versions of the world that you're in.
Oh, that's cool.
So you have to
that's so smart.
There are obstacles that are coming at you that keep phasing in and out of existence, and you have to pay attention to where they are on the offbeat so that you can dodge them when they come back. It's wild.
Smarter people than me have made this game. Clearly.
Yeah, oh, very much so. Like, the first 2 or 3 levels, I'm playing through it and thinking, okay, I get it. But then they just kept throwing new ideas in there and playing with just how even having you do the same thing, but changing the camera angle, changing the perspective, changing what you're up against makes it feel like an entirely different battle.
Yeah.
So that really well done. And one of the things that this game does very well is when you screw up, it is instantaneously loading the level again 6 seconds behind where you were. So
that's very cool.
You hit a wall and it's within a second you're back to trying again. There's no game over. Would you like to try again? Loading. Like, it's just you're back in it. They want you to keep playing the game so it doesn't feel dying, crashing, missing stuff never feels like it's a huge waste of time because everything loads quickly, the levels are short.
Yeah.
It's built for
Excellent.
that replayability.
Are all of the songs in the game new compositions, or is it mostly just Alanis Morissette or some such?
To my knowledge, they are all new compositions written for the game. That's my understanding, that everything was written for the game and is works. The synergy between them in the gameplay is fantastic.
Dope.
Yeah.
How high were you when playing this game?
Not at all. The first night I got it, I was a bit tired. But since then, I've not been high playing the game. I've just been enjoying the music and the visuals, and my little one likes them as well. He refers to it as the wolf robot game because there's a level with a giant 3-headed wolf robot.
Oh, okay. I was like, what? Maybe your son's high.
Hopefully not.
You can't control him forever, Andy.
No, that's true. I gotta let him leave the nest at some point. And if not 3, then when?
So there's a lot of buzz for this game on social media, mostly Twitter. How come this game didn't perform better? Do you see any sort of aspects that didn't speak to the mainstream, or
I mean,
anything that you were like I can see why people didn't really get into this?
If I want to be cynical, it is a game about girls, and I know that makes
too real.
Yeah, and I know that girls is one of the politics genders, so that people don't play the games that have girls in them because of SJWs and all that. And I know that it's very difficult to imagine being a girl in a way that it's not difficult to imagine being an Argonian. So I know it's hard for people to empathize with someone who's not you. So I can understand why people wouldn't play for that. Makes perfect sense. I think it's also easy to look at it and assume that, oh, that's what it is. So okay, I get it. Like, you see it, and you collect, you drive and you collect the little bips, and then you're done. I think it's easy to look at that and kind of write it off. But I don't really know. It is a visually fascinating game. It is beautiful to look at. It's got a great soundtrack. I don't know why it didn't take off more. Because it just, even watching 5 minutes of gameplay, I feel like you would look at it and say, like, that looks like a lot of fun. And it's very, it's very polished. I've not seen the visuals glitch out or anything like that. Clearly a labor of love from people who really wanted this to work.
Yeah, it's my personal opinion is just exposure, because when I saw it on the floor of PAX, I would like, it was magnetic. Like, I was like, I have to play that game. I don't know what it is, but look at it. It's amazing. And when I played it, I was like, oh my god, I have to play more. I haven't bought it yet, to be fair. But I'm part of the problem.
And I think I didn't know much about it until I heard someone on another podcast talking about it. And I think the other thing is that I don't think the title really does it any favors. I know that that's a small thing, but it just, Sayonara Wild Hearts isn't really evocative of anything.
That's fair. There was also another game called Wild Hearts at some point.
Yeah. I think I may have...
like a Japanese, I don't know, like a Neopets game maybe?
I think I played that. I think it might have been a free game.
Yeah. I got it on like Humble Bundle or something. Anyway, have you said sayonara to the game, or are you still playing?
No, I'm still playing it. I still play it pretty regularly, probably once every day to every other day. Just do a couple of rounds. I'm still very bad at it. I'm never going to get gold rank on all the levels, but I still play through it. It's very easy and quick to pick up, especially on Switch. Just it's the game that's on my Switch right now, and
Yeah.
it's just and I've been listening to the soundtrack just about every day. It's a great soundtrack.
Yeah.
It's been a great way to end 2019 musically.
Yeah, that's a really cool endorsement too, because there's not that many games that I've actually sat and like played the soundtrack for. Like Mass Effect jumps out. And other than that, it's been pretty sporadic. But that's appealing to me because there's not that many games that a lot of people say that about. So
Yeah, I would say
I might be more interested now than before.
I would say for anyone who's on the fence, go listen to a bit of the soundtrack. If you like the soundtrack, I think you'd be hard pressed to find someone who enjoys games and likes that soundtrack and doesn't like the game,
Yeah.
because it's just so intrinsically woven in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who would you recommend this game for?
Oh gosh, just about anyone. I think it's a lovely little story that they've baked in there. It's not overly narrative or filled with a bunch of cutscenes or anything like that, but there's just enough little pieces there to feel like you are progressing through something with a nice little resolution at the end. And it's a really lovely is the word for it. It's a very lovely experience, and I'm glad that I had it, and it was worth whatever I paid for it. It's been a great way to end the year as a new game to find and just enjoy in these cold, dreary, awful northeastern days.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it's the Northeast. What are you gonna do?
Yeah. It was 72 on Christmas down here.
Oh, was it?
Sorry. I've turned into my grandmother.
That's good. We got a bunch of sleet and hail today for no reason.
Why? Have you asked somebody to stop doing that?
I have talked to
understand.
management and I have reported a problem, but they have told me that it is just kind of out of their control.
System's broke.
Yep. What can you do?
Yep. Any final thoughts on Sayonara Wild Hearts?
No. Go out and play it. You should go pick it up, especially if you played it at PAX and enjoyed it. Go buy it. What are you doing?
I don't know what I'm doing.
That's me. That's me speaking directly to you.
No, I got it. I fucking got it.
But for anyone else who played it at PAX East and enjoyed it, much like Brent, go out and buy it right now and play it. But Slay the Spire is a good reason not to be playing it. That game's fucking amazing.
Yeah, play both.
Yeah.
Why not both?
Can you tell me about Life is Strange too?
Let's start off Life is Strange by saying that I'm going to do my absolute best to not do any spoilers past episode 2. So if you haven't played it at all, I'll try not to, because they definitely formulate everything so that there's like pretty dramatic things that happen at the end of each episode. So I'll try to also avoid those, but I'll probably give myself some breathing room and talk about episode 1 and 2 a little bit. And past that, I know it's going to be really touchy. So, Life is Strange 2. Life is Strange 2. You ready for some very, very minor spoilers?
I'm so excited for minor spoilers.
All right. Very quickly into the game, you're playing two brothers. Well, no, you're always controlling the older brother throughout the entire game. That's not much of a spoiler. But so you're in Seattle, and you're just living your life. If you haven't played Life is Strange, it's a adventure game. What would you call these games nowadays? It's 3D story adventure. Basically, you're just going around looking at objects, trying to solve very simple problems. But mostly, you're in these games for the story. So I'll try and keep it short and sweet for sure. But in Life is Strange 2, you're primarily playing as the older Diaz brother, and some pretty dramatic shit happens early on, where you're in Seattle with your brother and your father gets gunned down by the police. This game is very topical a lot of the times. That's something you can absolutely expect in every episode. So as a Diaz, you're of Mexican descent. You're very much look of Mexican descent, and so your father gets basically murdered by a police officer within the first half of the first episode. So from there, the entire story is about the older Diaz brother and the younger brother going through and trying to escape to Mexico. So you have all these different adventures. The first two take place in like just the narrow area along the coast of Seattle and a little bit south of Portland, where you're basically getting up to shenanigans. But the entire time you're sort of dealing with the fact that after your father was murdered, there was this huge explosion that happened, and that nobody really understood what happened. So it's not until the end of the second episode that you realize, oh no, this is the first episode. At the end of the first episode, you finally realize what happened, and that it's your brother Daniel. He has fucking superpowers. He's basically a Jedi.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So you're going along. You're trying to figure out what to do. Basically, a police officer has died. You and your brother are on the run because the police officer died inexplicably. Somehow, the older brother knew that they were at fault. He had really nothing to do with it. But they panic because of, the political heat in the country. They very much are like, oh god, this is not going to look good. We need to get the fuck out of here.
Makes sense.
So they run. The first two episodes are primarily about them escaping Seattle, meeting up with family members, and sort of trying to figure out what to do with their lives. But some of the issues I have with the game are that you don't really have true choice in early major moments like that. So very much in the vein of Life is Strange 1 or the old Telltale games, you seem to have a lot of control in a lot of major situations, and most everything else plays out as if you really don't need to have a say in the matter. It's not like in a situation like that, if that happened later on in the games, oh, a police officer just died and it was a complete accident, but it was totally our fault. What are we going to do about it? Do we run, or do we stay and try and explain the situation and try and hide Daniel's powers? Do we try and, confess that this happened and he's basically a fucking Jedi and we're all going to figure this out together? Because this is in a world, and not to spoil Life is Strange Season 1 at all, this isn't a super spoiler, but if you haven't played Season 1, maybe turn it off. But by the end of it, it's not revealed to the world that there's someone with this power of time control, which is the entire hook of the first season. And at the end of that game, I don't believe she even has that power anymore, which means that the world can continue on as it was, and other seasons of it don't have really any implications to that story. In this game, it doesn't feel like a lot of these major decisions have a huge, or don't give you that sort of control. And maybe it's just because they came out guns fucking blazing. That's the sort of scenario I would expect for the end of a mid-season episode or something, because it's really heavy stuff. Every single episode ends on a really heavy note. But also the entire season begins on a heavy note. So I could see where they absolutely wanted to tell this story of these brothers, that they absolutely have to go through all of these trials and tribulations, and it's not just a 10-second game where it's you know what, we'll take our chances. So that was my major problem, that stuck with me through all the story, because I really felt a lot of the times that if they had just sort of sat and dealt with it, a lot of the shit that comes to them later on wouldn't have happened, and they probably would have gotten scot-free. Yeah, I'll field some questions now, because it's a very story-heavy game, so it's hard to talk about it that much.
Yeah, I'm going to try to avoid story-related questions, or at least ones that are about, specific story details. But I've heard people talk about how it is a very topical game, and you confirming that. How well are those kind of issues handled? Do you feel like those were handled well?
They are not shy about the topics at all. When you get accosted, you get fully accosted. There's no third dimension to the people that are sort of fucking with you. So in the second episode, or is it in the first? I think it's the first. Sorry, so these games have been coming out slowly over the course of 12 months, so my memory is a little bit hazy, but in the first or second episode, you get tied up in the back of a gas station by someone who's very clearly racist and accuses you of stealing, even though you haven't. And then later on, you get accosted by people who are very clearly super racist. Like if they're not in the KKK, like they would be the prime targets for, racist assholes. So you get in a lot of scenarios where there's people that are just like subhuman trash that are treating you like trash, and you're like, it's almost hard to imagine that these people are real. Like, you sort of hear these stories about, I won't get into any of the political stuff, but you hear stories of bad people, and you're always like, well, hopefully there's another side to them, and they just were mouthing off and stuff like that. But a lot of the characters that are bad in this game are just bad, bad, bad. And the characters that are good are very good. And there are some in-betweens, but you get a lot of very, very polarized characters.
Do you think this would be difficult for someone to play who had experienced that stuff on their own? Like, would it hit too close to home, or is it not that overt? Or not that direct? And maybe that's a difficult question to answer. It was something I thought of when you were describing it.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I haven't been through the full gamut of that sort of stuff. So, like, obviously I've experienced hate, but not on a deep-seated racial hate that doesn't make sense to me as a person, because it's so stupid. So it's really hard to say, but it's a very, very emotional game. There were definitely times where I was a little bit choked up because of what was going on, and sometimes it was for good reasons, and sometimes it was for bad reasons. So it might be tough for some people, but it might also be so cartoonish that people are just like, well, that would never fucking happen. That was dumb. But I couldn't give any assurances there, honestly.
Okay. Does this tie in a lot with the story of Life is Strange 1 without giving away anything?
No.
Okay.
Not at all. Like I said, there's next to no ramifications for what happened in 1 in the actual universe of the game. That being said, the first game takes place in Oregon along the coast, and like I said, you travel along the coast, so early on you can see the city that the first game took place in. There's also a reference later on to the characters. I won't say any more about that, but yeah, I only counted 2 references, and they were straight up like fan references, not integral to the story at all.
Okay. So you could jump into Season 2 into Life is Strange 2 without any real issue of knowing what happened in Life is Strange 1.
Yes, absolutely. They're very different games too. So if the time bending puzzle mechanics of the first game don't really appeal to you, you may like a more core experience, which I think Life is Strange 2 is. You do get to somewhat control Daniel's powers sometimes. But that's the only sort of puzzle mechanic in the game. In Season 1, the time going back and forth in time really played into a lot of the mechanics. But in this, it's just can you lift this up? Can you lift this down? It's not very confusing. It's probably more accessible for an average gamer, but I wouldn't say Life is Strange 1's harder or anything. But yes, to answer your question, anyone could jump into this game and enjoy it.
Does it feel like the choices that you're making are making real difficult, or making real important, impactful difference in the storyline, or does it feel like you're making like it sometimes felt in the Telltale games, where the beats of the story were going to happen no matter what you did, and these were just kind of changing the set dressing.
Yes and no. There were some times where I was really disappointed by the choices, and there were some times where I was completely blown away by the choices. But one of the interesting things, and I really hope this isn't a spoiler, but it might. But, alright, so kind of spoiler. Again, it kind of spoils the end. Give you a little bit of time to think about it, but it's not a story spoiler. There's a morality meter in the game. So basically, you make a lot of choices, and based on those choices, Daniel will become either moral or amoral. And so you will have very, very, very different discussions and conversations and decisions with him throughout the later chapters based on how moral or amoral he is.
I don't think that's too bad of a spoiler, because a lot of the reviews I've read of it so far have referenced directly the idea that you're trying to set a good example for Daniel, and
Yeah, it's because it's never clear that it's happening, other than like the classic, like, you made a decision, like this will have an impact, like that sort of scene where it like very clearly plays out. But at the end of the game, it's very clear that whether he's a moral or amoral person. And in total, there's 7 endings to this game.
Oh, wow.
And I watched 3 of them, and they are dramatically different.
oh, cool, that's good to know.
Yeah, and they're obviously directly related to that morality, and also a few other factors throughout the story.
So the endings seem like they come from decisions that came throughout the whole season, rather than those games that you have where you've got the I think Yahtzee might
Heads
have
or tails.
Yeah, or I think Yahtzee might have referred to it as like the ending Tron 5000. Like at the, like
Yeah,
at the end
exactly.
of Human Revolution, where you get to the very end, it's like, all right, well, do you want to do this or this, A or B? Which one do you want to do? And that's the ending you get.
No, if I loaded up a save and I played it out again, I wouldn't have access to 5 of the endings, because that last choice only gives you two endings, depending on what you've done throughout the rest of the game.
Okay, awesome. That's very reassuring for a narrative-based game.
Yeah. At the end of, I should also note, at the end of every single chapter, they always tell you globally like who made choices towards what. And I was constantly shocked by how many different scenarios could have gone down in all of those situations. Like, usually, like, the climactic endings would have 5 different scenarios that would happen, and they are all pretty fucking different, too. So if this game did something better than the first game, it was absolutely that your choices fucking mattered. Like, that is the technique that they've mastered and learned from 1 to 2.
That's very good news. Do you think you'd play it again? Like, do you think you'd play it from beginning to end to see the different endings again, or are you content just kind of watching them online?
I think so. I only watched 2 different endings. One was the alternate ending for the playthrough that I did, and then I watched one that was a playthrough that I didn't like cater towards whatsoever, and it felt so wrong, because it wasn't the Daniel that I had been like with this whole time, that I couldn't watch any more endings. If I was going to play it again, I would want to play through it entirely and experience like that different side of Daniel, and see sort of how he gets to that point, because the endings for this game again are dramatically different. Like, every possible ending you can experience for these 2 boys, like, it's crazy.
Okay. Who would you recommend this game to?
Anyone that's not afraid of sort of like being a little bit vulnerable and emotional when they're playing a game. It's story based, so obviously it's not fast paced action at any point in time. Obviously, there's super dramatic, tense scenes almost every episode. But I think you need to be a little bit open-minded when you go into the game. I think you need to be a little bit emotionally available. because there's going to be some really there's going to be some scenes that really play on your heartstrings, and like if you're not open to that, then it's not going to go over well.
The decisions that you make, because I didn't play Life is Strange 1 either, are the decisions that you're given time-based? Like, do you have a couple of seconds to decide, or can you think about them? And if it spoils something to answer that question, obviously you don't.
In the first one, you usually have a good amount of time. In this game, you do too. Most of the Telltale games, they give you like a little timer, but I don't remember there being any timers or limited time in either of these two games. Maybe more in the first one, just because there was that time element, but I can't think of a single scenario where that was the case in Season 2.
Okay. Just mechanically, the engine visuals, how are they compared to the first?
I'd say it definitely looked better. The engine's a little bit dated at this point. There's definitely some questionable looking polygons and what have you, but it still looks good. Like, they could easily port it to mobile, iPad, whatever, like they did the first season, and it would look fine.
What did you play this on?
Xbox One X.
Okay. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I really enjoyed the game. It definitely, again, tugged on some heartstrings that I don't know if I was always ready to deal with, but when I finally started gearing up to play the games, I played I played the last 3 episodes within like 2 days because I just was so invested in the story at that point. It definitely starts off a little slower. You definitely don't feel like Daniel's power is that relevant all the time, other than just being like a plot device. But it still works well. It works well in the endings. It works well in a lot of the decisions you have to make. But you're not sort of coming face to face with this power all the time. It's more of just the repercussions of having a young boy with a superpower and sort of how to handle that. So yeah, I thought it was a very good, very special, and very, very different from Season 1.
Well, all right. That sounds like a winner. I'm gonna have to pick that one up.
Yeah, I could definitely recommend it. I'd also recommend Season 1 though, so I guess play both. The full experience. You do the saves for Season 1 and Captain Spirit are both get ported into this game. So if you play those games, you do, even though they're not part of, or even though the Season 1's not really part of it, you still see the repercussions of your major decisions in this game.
Oh, neat.
So
okay.
That's the one bridge that I would say. And Captain Spirit is directly related to this game. The decisions you can make in that are minor, but you're playing a minor character from episode 2. So you get to play a shortened, like, 2-hour episode for free with him in it, and there's some minor correlations to your decisions there.
Neat. Okay. Well, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
all right. I guess we got to rank these.
Yeah, I was gonna say, where would you put this in our in the big list?
Let us take a look. Probably right above Gears 5 and right below Luigi's Mansion 3. So that puts it at number 12.
That's actually where I was going to put Sayonara Wild Hearts as well. So I put Sayonara Wild Hearts at number 13.
Oh, wow. Well, let me... All right, so that's a nice easy one. That totals up to 33 games. Oh, no, wait, the numbers just got pushed down. 35 games, so that technically pushes out Borderlands 3 from the top 50%. But, no big surprise there, I guess. Yeah. No, I'm glad we both enjoyed our little indie game.
Yeah, it's not often that we get to both enjoy the games that we played.
Yeah, when was the last time we had 2 high games on the same episode?
Outer Worlds?
It was never. Yeah, that's right. We both did that one. Yeah, Outer Worlds.
We both played
number 4.
And then prior to that, number 14. With Link's Awakening Control. So yeah, we've not had great success at both playing a good game.
Yeah. Well, hopefully 2020 is the year of major releases. Otherwise, it's been fairly quiet year. I mean, looking at this list, there's a lot of really good games out.
Oh yeah.
But there's no like tent pole like holy fuck, this game is the end of games game. So yeah. So 2020 should be interesting, especially with Cyberpunk coming out.
Before we wrap everything up, I just want to go through and do some listener questions here. And we tweeted earlier looking for listener questions, and we got none. So I'm just reminding everyone that you all failed us.
Oh, that's not fair. I only gave people like 4 hours, but
Well, I mean, I also did tell them last time, but it's fine. It's fine. We're gonna put out another questions thread at the end of thread. What am I talking about? A questions tweet when we're recording the next one, and I expect you, listeners, to throw a question in there.
oh, you can tell who the dad is of the two of us.
Yeah, it's you. So, because the
Don't tell him
dad
about
would
my
know that this approach does not work.
All right. We're pushing we're pushing 90 minutes. Why don't we call it a day?
Yeah, good idea.
Check out the social medias. That's how you're gonna send us our mandatory questions from old Scooter McGee.
Yep.
Special thanks to our editor, D'Artagnan, and we'll see y'all next week.
See you next week.